Hi everyone, we're on day 16 notes. The notes for today is solved by quadratic formula. We'll kind of break this down, just talk about some of the individual pieces, and then we will get into the quadratic formula. We're actually going to spend 2 days on this topic. We'll do most of it today and then like some side stuff and some more examples tomorrow. Okay, anyway, at the top of the notes it says standard form. This takes us back a little bit. Standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, and the part I really want you to pay attention to for these next two problems is the a value, which is yellow, the b value, which is blue, and the c value, which is green. Those are going to be important to us when we use the quadratic formula. So example 1, state the a, b, and c value for the function. So problem A, it says negative 2x squared. So the number in front of the x squared term, that is your a value. So a is negative 2. Then it says plus 3x. The number in front of x is your b value. That would be a positive 3. And then it says minus 10. The number that's on the end, kind of by itself, is your c value. And that's all we're doing, is just labeling those. And you can see how I color coordinated those. Yellow is for A, B is for, or blue is for B, and green is for the C value. And then I just wrote them out. The next one looks a little bit different. The reason that this is different is because it's not equal to 0. So let's set it equal to 0 by adding 4 to the other side. So I have 0 equals 9x squared minus x plus 4. And I'm just going to read it and highlight it as we go. So it starts with 9x squared. The number in front of x squared is the a value. Then it says minus x. Technically, there's a 1 in there. So technically, the b value is negative 1. And then it goes on to say plus 4. That's the number on the end by itself. That is your c value. That's a positive 4. And there's your a, b, and c value. Okay, that's important because if you look at this next part, we have our quadratic formula, which I know most of you did in Algebra 1. It is a long formula, but it has a bunch of A's, B's, and C's in there. So you need to make sure you know how to find A, B, and C because we're going to plug those in. So let's do a problem. Solve by the quadratic formula. Okay, 9x squared plus 6x plus 1 equals 0. Let's go ahead and label. It starts with 9x squared, so that means the a value is 9. Then it goes into plus 6x, so the b value is positive 6. And then it goes into plus 1, so the c value is 1. Okay, when I use my quadratic formula, that is the formula right up top here. So I'm just going to be copying this down, and let's see if I can leave it up there. So I'm going to start with x equals. I have negative b, so I start with a negative sign, and then I put my b value, which is 6. Then I have the plus or minus symbol in this kind of large square root. Underneath the square root, I have b squared. So I'm going to do b, which is 6, squared, minus 4, and I'm just following the formula, times a, which is really 9, times c, which is really 1. And then this is all over, see how I put that division bar? All over 2 times a, which a is 9 in this case. Okay, so that's all I did right now is I plugged in the information. Okay, I'm going to take it kind of piece by piece because this is really a mess, and you might need your calculator or use your computer or use your cell phone. But I'm going to go piece by piece, and I'm going to do this yellow part first. So I'm going to do x equals negative 6 plus or minus, and I'm going to figure out the yellow part. So if I just use my phone or type it into Google or something, 6 squared minus 4 times 9 times 1 is actually going to give me, and I just use a calculator, is actually going to give me 0. And then that's going to be divided by 2 times 9, which I'll just switch that to 18. So it kind of went with started from a bunch of different things, and I kind of narrowed it down so it's not so crazy. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and keep simplifying. The square root, I'm going to keep looking at the square root part over here. The square root of 0 is 0. Like technically there's nothing there. You can't break that down. Technically it's a 0. You don't even need that if you want, because if you think about it, is there such thing as a positive 0 in a negative 0? No, we just say 0 is 0. So technically, all you have at this point is negative 16 over 18, because that 0 is not really affecting it. So that's a rare situation, but that could happen. And then you're always going to want to simplify as low as you can go. So I'm going to think about, how can I reduce this? How can I break this down? I know that 6 goes into 6 one time, and I know that 6 goes into 18 3 times. So I end up with x equals negative 1/3. And that would be my answer. Let's do another one. Let me get to the right spot. Here we go. Problem B is just a different problem. It says 9x squared plus 6x equals 0. Let's set it equal to, equals 4. Let's set it equal to 0 by subtracting 4 to the other side. So I'm going to start with 9x squared plus 6x minus 4, and now it'll equal 0. This allows me to find the a value, which is going to be 9. I highlighted it yellow. The b value, which is 6. I highlighted it blue. And the c value, which is green. That's negative 4. I like to just label those off on the side so that I can use them to plug them in. So when I write this, I'm going to use my quadratic formula, and I know it's not on my page, but you could write it at the top of your page. I have x equals negative b, which is 6, plus or minus square root b squared, so 6 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 9, times c, which is negative 4, all over 2 times a. So I'm going to go ahead and take this inside part right here that I'm highlighting, and again, you could type it into your phone and break it down. You could do some scratch work on the side. You could, I don't know, type it into Google. But when you do 6 squared minus 4 times 9 times negative 4, you should get 180. That goes underneath there. And then 2 times 9, again, just happens to be 18. So that's what I have so far. I'm going to go ahead and keep focusing on this root part and see if I can break this down. This one actually will be a little different than the previous. I'm going to do my factor tree that we've been working on. What multiplies to 18? I'm sorry, what multiplies to 180? I think of 18 times 10. And then I'm going to break down the 18, 9 times 2. I'm going to break down the 9 into 3s. I'm going to break down the 10 into 2 times 5. So then I just look through this and I find my pairs. I circle those up, and I have my leftover. So let's write this out. So I have x equals negative 6 plus or minus. Remember, your pairs, your matches come on the outside. So 2 goes to the outside and 3 goes to the outside. You would multiply those. So 2 times 3 is 6, and then the 5 stays underneath the root, and this is all divided by 18. I'm going to move this over here. So right now, that's what I have. I broke down my root. The last thing you want to check for is any reducing of the fractions, and you have to make sure that all 3 things can be reduced. So see those 3 green numbers? You want to make sure they can all be reduced down. In this case, they can all be reduced down by 6. So I'm going to divide this by 6, divide this by 6, and divide this by 6. So when I write this, I have x equals negative 1 plus or minus 1 square root of 5 all over 6 goes into 18 3 times. And that is my final answer. It's a little bit of a mess, but that's my answer. Okay, last one for today. I have 9x squared plus 6x plus 5. Let's go ahead and label the pieces. A is going to be 9. B is going to be positive 6. And C is going to be positive 5. Okay, let's plug it in. X equals negative B plus or minus square root b squared, and I'm plugging in the numbers, b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So take a moment. If I went too fast, just kind of pause it and check that you put everything in the right spot. But I just plugged them in for a, b, and c. And then again, I'm going to focus on simplifying that yellow part, kind of breaking that down. So again, when I use my calculator or my phone and I type that yellow part in, I get negative 144. and then 2 times 9 for the bottom here is 18. And I'm going to still stay focused on that root part, that yellow part. I'm going to see if I can break it down, and this one's actually special. I need to pay attention to that negative sign. That means I'm going to have an I in my answer, and then the square root of 144 is actually a perfect square. So let me write this, clean this up a little bit for you. So I'm going to have x equals -6 plus or minus. I have the I, that's that negative sign, and then hopefully you know this, the square root of 144 is just 12. That's a perfect square, and then it's all over 18. And just like the other problem, I'm going to highlight these numbers green. You want to see if you can break down or reduce those green numbers. It's like an all or nothing deal, so you have to do all 3 of them or just stop. So actually 6 goes into all of these again, so I'm going to divide all of these by 6. When I write my answer, that's going to be x equals -1 plus or minus 2, and then the I, all over 3. And that's my final answer. This answer, you have 2 answers, but they both are imaginary solutions.